Thank you for Patreon now for donating to the Patreon.
Hey guys, Vandy is a Bio Cardback Vanguard deck profile. So because you're going to come subscribe to watch, shall we? This time we're covering the first decks of 5 in the new Lyrical Monasterio, well I guess Festival Collection booster cards, and that would be Alestiels. All around, Alestiels was one of my favorite lines in general when they first came out. They always felt a little bit weird playing, but they still were very fun to play just because they had like the two different styles of white wings and black wings and how you could combine them about your deck based off of one or the other. And then with the introduction of the new Alestiel Grade 3, I don't know what it was, but the deck felt like it had such a smooth transition from feeling slightly uncomfortable to play just to feeling 100% comfortable. Like I've played this deck for years. So let's go and get the start shot when you can see what I mean, because honest to God, I find this deck super fun to play. First up today, we have our starter in Monochromic Personality Alestiel, grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 6k base. Auto run upon if you win second, draw a card. So starter is supposed to use draw a card if you win second. It's just good. Like you can run any starter because none of them really require this as the starter for the ride line at all. But you know, might as well go for the full ride line gimmick. Also because she's just the coolest to me. Like she has the double wings, and then you know she's like in the dancing room, and I love how her shirt is kind of drawn. Just I don't know, just the whole thing is great. So that's my starter. You can make whatever you want because again, the ride line doesn't really require it, but might as well go for the full line. Then we have our triggers. First, we have the Over Trigger and Blessing Diva Griziel. Grades will boost 50k shield, 5k power. Over Trigger, you may have one Over Trigger in your deck. When you Over Trigger, you may draw a card, choose one of each of the turn. And if you have a draw track, activate it to just fuck because you can during this fight, you get during your turn, all your rear guards get plus 10k power. All around, very solid. This deck specifically doesn't need that because the deck gets a good enough power gain, it gets extra crit pressure, and it can get multi attack. But you know, in the situation where you do drive check this, you can get plus 10k power to board, which is great. Honestly, it's an amazing Over Trigger. I love pulling this off. It's my favorite in terms of art, and yet it's the Over Trigger that hates me the most because literally half the time I bind this card from the grade 1 and the grade 2 sends it to bottom, so I never get to touch it. But all around, Grizel is just a solid, you know, Over Trigger, and might as well run as the one of. I mean, you can really run any of the Lyrical Monasterio overs, but like I said, fits the thing. Then we move on to our normal triggers. Like I said, with pretty much the two things so far, everything is meant to fit the theme. If you want to run the effect triggers, go ahead. It works the same way, but I'd rather just fit with the theme. Diligent Follower Sigil is our first card. Grades will boost 5k shield, 5k base. It's a draw trigger at 3 copies. You know, helps increase the hand and also acts as just card fodder, so why not run it as the draw trigger? Then we have 4 Glee Singing Totiel. Grades will boost 15k shield, 5k power. Okay, listen, you have the ability to minus your opponent's Vanguard's power and or increase your critical and power of your own Vanguard. Might as well pump up the front row just to make it a little bit more deadly. Also, front triggers are really good defensively. I cannot tell you how many times that front triggers, just in general, not just Lyrical Monasterio, have saved my rear guards. So 4 of. Then we have 4 copies of With Wings Flying in the Blue Sky, Anita, or if we're going to go by its name written on the actual dubbed card, Wings Dancing in the Blue Skies, Anita. Grades will boost 15k shield, 5k power. You know, standard critical, not so much about it. You know, here's the funny thing. I thought this card was an angel for the longest time until when I was pulling up its image for this slideshow, I didn't realize that this said human. So yeah, apparently she's a human and not an angel, because I really thought this was a part of her, but I guess it's not. Either way, though, we have, you know, rainbow it, and why not? Because the Vanguard can already get extra crit, and again, the Vanguard can multi-attack. Why not try to like put as much pressure on the rear guards and or Vanguard as possible again when you can minus the opponent's Vanguard's power? So, you know, we rainbow it, and then we run our 4 normal heals in soft light, pure low, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 5k power, standing heal, not much about it. Even if there was an effect heal that was an angel, I still want to use it anyways because I don't really like the effect heals. I feel like they're too situational, and they're only 10k shields most of the time, and only in very specific circumstances are they 25k shields. So regardless of if there was one that fits the theme or not, I'd rather stick with the consistent 15k shields than the most of the time 10k shield with a little bit of 25k shield here and there. 4 Purio, we run rainbow, and that's pretty much it for the triggers. Then move on to our grade 1s. First, we run 2 copies of Spokesperson of Heavenly Voice, Hergio. She is literally the definition of she either does everything or she does absolutely nothing. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, white wings active when your bind zone only has odd grade cards, auto when it's placed on rear guard circle from your hand during your main phase. By combusting, when you choose a card with white wings ability from your drop other than herself, call it to an open rear guard circle. All around, it's a pretty solid ability because for the simple cost of a counter boss 1, you get a rear guard to board, which is great, and it does end up helping with the deck's like early rushing, and sometimes this deck does have a problem getting grade 1s out the board, and even if it's not a grade 1, it's just any card with white wings. You know, if they ever start making grade 2 with white wings, then that'd be great. Either way, though, it's a solid grade 1, but like I said, she either does nothing, where in the sense where my board is already filled, or like it's no worth using her skill, or she does everything where it actually is worth using her skill, and she helps fill up my board for multi-attack, and or just all around make my board better. So 2 of her Juriel. You know, you don't want to see too many of her, but she is useful when she's useful. Then we have 2 copies of Wings with Rainbow Glow Emriel, aka the card I would never use properly because I never know how to properly time her. Grade 1 boost 5k shield, 8k bait, so right wings, I'm just not going to keep explaining white wings. Like, basically the difference is this. Black wings, it's only active when you're grade when even grades like grade 0s and 2s are in your bind zone, white wings grade 1s and 3s are in your bind zone, and only those. Anyways, auto when it's placed on rearguard circle, if your opponent's vanguards are grade 3 or greater, count +1, choose one of your rearguards for every 3 units with odd grades, and it gets +5k power 1 critical until the turn. You cannot choose the same unit twice. So basically, the max you will ever get from this, if your whole board is grade 1s and 3s, or things that are considered grade 1s and 3s, is a total of +5 in a critical to 2 units, which is great, because if you're in white wings, that would imply the main grade 3 Alestiel's white wings effect is off, so it also has an extra crit, meaning your entire front row basically has double crit on it if you set up the situation right. Again, I say I never know how to properly time this, because most of the time when she shows up, I don't have enough units that are odd grades to actually benefit from this, and the times when she does show up and I do have the ability to do that, it's typically when my opponent has 3 PG, so it doesn't matter anyways. But either way, Amira is just a solid grade 1. I like her skill, and she can definitely be used as a finisher, and worst case scenario, an early game rush card, 2 of. Then we have 3 copies of straight up one of the best printed grade 1s I've ever seen for support cards, together with you, Seraphiel. Grade 1 boost 5k shield, AK base. Auto when she's placed on rearguard circle, choose a grade 3 Alestiel's card from your drop zone, put it to model deck. All run pretty solid because the deck likes to superior ride a lot, and you don't want to recycle, or you don't want to run through too many of your Alestiels, especially the original one, so being able to recycle them back is pretty great. And then White Wings auto back row rearguard circle, not specifically back row center, so just saying this now, when they eventually print a way for us to restand the front row units in this deck, it will be possible. When your unit with Alestiel and its card name on your vanguard circle during your battle phase stands, when it's placed on your vanguard circle during your battle phase, stand this unit. All around, pretty solid. It's an instant free restand, so when you can boost your original Vanguard with this, and then you can superior ride during the battle phase, and then this stands with it, so basically you get 2 attacks with a booster, which is great, and one of them's going to have extra crit most likely, and one of them could also get another extra crit. And then, again, when we get the ability to multi-attack with rear guards, and this unit stands behind something, we can put on a little more pressure. So all around, Sarah feels just a solid grade 1, she can recycle stuff, and she can act as basically twice a booster, so easy 4 or 3 of it for me in this deck, because 4 of would imply that I'd drop one of these, and I don't want to drop either of them. Then we have 4 PGs, an Unwelcoming and Private Disio. Grade 1 boost 0/6 base. Continues set on you may have to force lines and deck on put on guard circle. Choose one units, it cannot be hit on battle. If your hand is 2 or more cards, choose a card from your card. Standard PG and responsibility. Basically means if this only one cards in your hand placed on guard circle, you don't have to discard one, which is great, because that means you can be as aggressive as you want in the early game, and then when your opponent counterattacks you, you can be extremely defensive. And this deck can go from 0 to 180 in terms of offense really quickly, and then still put on a good defensive charm very quickly as well. But having the PG there as like a as a safety net is pretty nice to have. So 4 of Diesel. You can run any PG really because they all have the same skill, but might as well go for the one that has the theme. Then we have our last grade 1, the grade 1 of the ride deck, one of in the ride deck, now in the main deck of an Indecisive Sky Alestiel. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, AK base, auto when she's placed on Vanguard Circle by the top card of your deck, and then she has a White Wings and Black Wings ability. White Wings continues Vanguard Circle. When you would ride from your ride deck, you may Soul Blast 1 instead of choose a card from your hand and discard it, so pretty solid that you don't have to ditch for ride deck. And then Black Wings, the better one in most scenarios, continues Vanguard. All your opponent's grade 1 less rear guards cannot attack this unit. Pretty solid, because it can just nullify rear guard attacks, so your opponent can't really rush you on grade 1 turn if you're going second, if you're going first. But if you're going second, I think this is all around the better one. But if you're going first, it still works, so all around pretty solid. And then as it explains here, like I said earlier, White Wings is only active when your bind zone only has odd grades, Black Wings is the opposite with even grades. So all around, Alestiel is pretty solid. She can either make your ride deck a Soul Blast instead of a discard, or she can make it so your opponent can't early game rush you. Solid grade 1 nonetheless. I like its skill, and it's an easy one of in the ride deck. Then move on to our grade 2s. We have 3 copies of Howling Ballad Fanel. Grade 2 stuff like shield, 10k base, Black Wings active when your bind zone only has even grades. Auto rear guard when this unit is placed on rear guard circle, soul charge 1, then this unit gets boosted on a turn. Okay, so sometimes this deck can have a soul problem, so being able to have a free soul charge is pretty great. And not to mention the fact, from testing what I did before without this card in the deck, this deck pretty much always had a full board of grade 2s, because that's just how the deck consistently worked out for some reason outside of this one unit. So being able to get a grade 2, who granted only gets boost for the turn, but still gets boost nonetheless, is pretty solid because it adds more numbers and therefore makes some turns slightly more deadly. So 3 of Fanel. Gets boost, gets soul charge, and benefits from the deck being able to spam out a full board of grade 2s in 5 seconds. Easy 3 over me. Then we have 4 copies of one of the cards that can lower the opponent's Vanguard's power, and the card I constantly get the cost confused of, Privileged Potential Fanel. Grade 2 instead 5k shield, 10k base, auto when she's placed on rearguard circle. If you have a Vanguard with Alestiel's card name, Soul Blast 1, choose a card from your bind zone, put it to your hand. If you put a card to your hand, choose a card from your hand, bind it. So all around pretty solid, because not only can it just swap cards in your bind zone with cards in your hand, which is all around better than what the Alestiels do because they bind it from top, But this allows you to just pick a specific card, who we will get to later, that allows it to activate both black and white wings, therefore pretty much guaranteeing you've won the game every time, because you can just set up every single skill possible, from restanding and board plussing from this thing to, getting boost and this thing's second ability, which is black wings. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, by counterblasting 1, choose one of your opponent's grade 3 or greater Vanguards and lose 5k for the turn. All around pretty solid because it doesn't require you to specifically be on Alestiels. So it's great for generic decks that can just randomly get bound cards, and then, if they're even grades, then it can go off. But being able to minus an opponent's Vanguards powered by 5k is pretty solid, especially when you combine it with the OG Alestiel, who can drop it by another 5k, bringing them to a total of 3k. It's also not a hard once per turn, meaning that if you have a second one on board, you can just keep doing it, and again, being able to swap binds on cards and technically activate a combo that would auto-trigger both black and white wings to the end of the opponent's turn is pretty solid. So I think Phantom's just a good grade 2 all around, and it's an easy 4 for me in this deck because it has the aggressive power and it has the consistency. Then we have 4 copies of Enveloping Affection Ariel, grade 2 and 5k shield, 10k base. Autumn is placed on rearguard circle. If you have a Vanguard or Alestiel's card name, by counterblasting 1, you can choose a card from your bind zone, put it to hand. If you put a card, bind the top card of your deck face up. So even though she's a newer card, I think she's all around worse with the swapping ability, because again, just like her, she gets a card into your hand, but the difference is this one swaps it with a card in your hand from bind zone. This one binds it from top deck, so you have less consistency with it, but its other ability is pretty solid too, which is Black Wings. Auto, when it's put on guard circle, choose one of the attacking units, and it gets minus 5k on turn. All around, pretty solid. So when your opponent attacks you something, this is technically a 10k shield because it drops something powered by 5k, except technically it's better than a 10k shield, because if that unit's a restander, then that fucks them over for the rest of the turn, until they get more power, but it still lowers their power by 5k what it would have been before. Either way, Ariel is a solid grade 2 because drops power, so it makes guarding a little bit easier throughout the turn, especially on multi-attack decks, and not to mention the fact it can still provide swapping with bind zone cards. What I love about this deck is, technically speaking, if you have this resources to do so, not like you should, but you could technically go on a combo proc where you just bind with this and then bind with this, and something tells me at some point someone's going to keep doing that, just where they enter a loop to the point where they use all of them the same turn, but I'd love to see that happen. Either way, Ariel, though, is a solid grade 2. I think it's great. Gets guard power addition, and not to mention the fact it can swap cards with bind zone, so easy 4 for me. Then we have our last grade 2, it's the grade 2 of the Ride deck. One of them in the Ride deck, now in the main deck, as shining as is Alestiel. Grade 2 and 5k shield, 10k base. Auto, when she's placed on Vanguard circle, choose a card from your bind zone, put it to bottom. If you put a card, bind the top card of your deck face up. You know what has been consistent throughout every single build of this deck from set 1 all the way to now? It's the fact that the first card I normally bind from the skill of Indecisive is this, and then that's the card I have to send to bottom, and then a lot of games I will get near the bottom where it actually would have won me the game if I just had one more card there, but I don't. Thankfully, with this version of this deck, it's able to shuffle, so it's not that big of an issue, but yeah, that still happens, believe it or not. I don't know why. Anyways, solid skill, it gets a swap for free, and then White Wings act Vanguard Circle once per turn. Counterboss 1 gets a crit for the turn, and then Black Wings continues Vanguard Circle during the battle you attack. Your opponent cannot call trigger units from hand to guard circle. Okay, technically what most people would do if you don't have a booster, they could just drop a 15k on Vanguard and be like, aha, over to pass. And if you're me, they probably know the over's at bottom, therefore it doesn't matter. But the extra crit skill, again, mainly because I know the over's at the bottom, is just better for me, because being able to increase my Vanguard's power by an extra critical and basically forcing them to want to guard is great, and also because even if they need the counterblast for next turn, if they take this and they don't kill me next turn, they've pretty much given me a freebie damage, and when you're playing against a deck that can multi-attack with double criticals on Vanguard Circle, yeah, any freebie damage is essentially a death wish for you. So one of shining as is Alestiel in the Ride deck. It can technically help for early game rush, but all around it just helps set up for late game. I like how these two are polar opposites of each other. One prevents your opponent from touching you for early game rush, and then the other one encourages them to do it, but also encourages you to do it too. So one of this in the right deck. And then we move on to our grade 3s. First, we run 3 copies. Yes, I know 3 is weird for a card that is so, a good 4 of staple, but this deck sees it consistently enough to the point where it's warranting of 3 of, especially with spacing. And that is Incessant Vocal Lyrical, grade 3 to 9%, 13k base. Auto rearguard when it's placed, or when your Vanguard is placed, bind this unit to draw a card. Okay, so replace itself, and since it can be done during battle phase, it can technically allow for multi-attack if you found a way to call during the battle phase. And then auto, when this card's bound, both white and black wings are active until end of your opponent's next turn. Great. So here's the thing. If you place your Vanguard either by normal means of persona writing, or using you use the new one's Alestiel skill to ride during the battle phase, you can bind or draw a card and then immediately activate white or black wings, or you can just use one of the many cards that can swap stuff into bind zone, such as any of these things, and then the second you do so, she immediately will trigger both black and white wings till the end of the next turn, which is great. All around, Alekio is just a solid card in this deck. She literally is essentially the trigger for everything, where yes, this deck can work fine doing one or the other at a time span, but the second you proc off this, it's essentially the gloves are off, there's no holding back, whatever happens, happens. 3 of Alekio, solid grade 3, she does everything she does for free, and you could run it for her, but like I said, the deck sees it consistently up to the point where 3 of is enough. Let's move on to our main grade 3s, or the Alestiel units. 2 of in the main deck, none in the right deck, of Archangel Twin Wings Alestiel. Again, this deck doesn't run by them too fast, and we do have this grade 1 over here who recycles them, so there's not real need to put them higher than a 2 of. Anyways, Alestiel, grade 3 Champion Star, 13k base. Auto Vanguard, being on your main phase, choose a card from your bind zone, put it to hand. If you put a card, bind the top of your deck face up. So basically, what this one is basically, but does it for free, to, swap a card with a bind zone with a card at the top of the deck and just add a card to hand, which is great. So if you see a PG or a copy of Alekio, which you can then call to do some combo plays, it still works out. And then it has 2 skills, 1 White Wings and 1 Black Wings. White Wings gives you Vanguard Circle during your turn, so you go 5k power and 1 critical for the turn, so 18k base with double crit. And in a multi-attack case, that is very, good, because again, this deck can get 4 attacks and possibly have 2 Vanguard attacks with double critical, so being able to pressure that out is great. And then Black Wings contains Vanguard Circle during your turn, all your opponents use lose 5k. So not just the Vanguard, but their rear guards too, so if you want to bully their rear guards, you can take advantage of that. But again, the Vanguard has extra crit on, which is great, and if you can trigger both White and Black Wings, their Vanguards are 8k. If you have this, then it's a 3k, and if you have 2 of them, then technically it's a negative 3k, and this thing has double critical and 18k base. Solid card. Like its skill, adds rush pressure, makes it harder for your opponent either way. Just one is technically better on the offense than the other, but 2 of Alestiel. Solid card. That's all I need really to say about it. And then we have our last card on the deck, 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the ride deck. This is our ride deck grade 3, by the way. Holy Angel of Blessings, Alestiel. I love her art. I think she's cool, and she definitely makes this deck feel really smooth and consistent. Grade 3 Champion Star, 13k base. Dress up, the new skill that all the new Lyrical Monasterio grade 3s got. Archangel of Twin Wings Alestiel, so how dress up works is during this fight, this card is also regarded as a specified card. But that's not how it is in deck building, meaning technically speaking, you can run 4 copies of both these cards because they're still considered different names until the fight actually starts, and by then you're not really breaking the rule. So pretty solid there. And then its skill goes off. So first up, Auto Vanguard Circle, literally the same skill as this one. At the beginning of your main phase, choose a card from your bind zone, put it to hand, and bind the top card of your deck face up. So I like how that skill didn't change. And then it has 2 other separate skills, which is great. So Black Wings, active Vanguard Circle, once per turn, discard 1, search your deck to 1 card the Black Wings ability, and call it to rear guard and shuffle your deck. Okay, and now you can see why this deck can spam out a bunch of grade 2s, because you can get the ability to swap bind zone cards with this one, fetch out this for consistency, and you'll be crazy not to because it's a free Soul Blast, fetch out this one just to Soul Charge 1 and get boosters, etc. All around is pretty solid, and the fact it searches any card with Black Wings ability means she can search herself, this if you really wanted to, or any other card that had a Rear Guard Black Wings ability, so when they start printing grade 1s that have that, you can take advantage of it. And then White Wings, Auto Vanguard Circle. At the end of the battle, she attacked into anything by counterblasting 1 and discarding 1 search deck or hand for up to 1 card whose original card name, so not her, who is Archangel of Twin Wings Alestiel. Ride at a stand, it loses a drive for the turn, and if you search your deck, you shuffle it. So I'm pretty solid because if you Persona, or if you Superior Road, you don't Persona Ride because it's, you can Persona Ride from her on top of this and then vice versa because they were considered the same name during the fight, but Superior Rides don't trigger Persona Rides unless specified otherwise. But the thing is, considering that to do that you have to be in White Wings, that means when this thing comes in for another attack, while you still only have 1 drive, it'll be an 18k with double critical, possibly with this thing boosting it, which is great. And then, if you had Alekio go off this turn, your opponent also loses 5k power, and you're probably going to proc off a Phantom or 2. All around, this card is pretty solid. It can get multi-attack, it can set up for combos, it literally is a toolbox for any grade 2 that can proceed to set up combos, such as this into this, which therefore allows this into this, which therefore allows this with a possible 3 to -2, I think, power Vanguard with double critical in the front row. Yeah. Easy 4 of Alestiel for me. She does multi-attack, she gets set up, what's not to like about it? Cool 4 of. That's it for the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. All around, this deck is pretty fun to play. I just love getting able to swap cards in bind zone, pull off stupid combos, drop the opponent's Vanguard's power, increase my power, get multi-attack with the Vanguard, get extra criticals. All around is very simple. I love the deck's theme. I love how the wings look different from each other. It's just all around fun to play. So I'm going to end it here. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join us on Twitch. I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to stand up your Vanguards.